it's King Cubic, and I'm here for you today to bring you the first Cubic deck profile for the 2018 February ban list. Let's get started. So first we have the main boss of the deck, Crimson Nova the Dark Cubic Lord, and his effect lets him be special summoned by revealing 3 Cubic cards in hands, and he's so good because he can attack twice if he destroys a monster, and both players get burned for 3k in the end phase. So basically, he's your main card you want to summon to win. He's like the OTK boss of the deck. Alright, let's move on. Next we have Yugioh, the Meteor Cubic Vessel. And his effect lets him, on summon, he's a Foolish Burial for every Cubic card in deck. And he's what allows you to get your main plays going. Alright, next we have Yugioh, the Cubic Seed. And on board, he's like a stall card because he can't be destroyed by battle, and he can negate monster effects. But what he mostly does is he allows you to get certain combos going with 2 other engines in the deck, which I'll show you now. First, we have the OTK based engine, and I'll start with Dark Garnex. He can be special summoned by tributing 1 Cubic monster on your field, which can be any Cubic monster, but Yugioh and Yugioh are the easiest. And then he'll gain 1000 attack, and if he destroys a monster in battle, you can special summon 2 Yugioh from your graveyard and add Blade Garudia to hand. Blade Garudia, very similar effect, except by tributing 2, he gains 2000 attack and can attack twice. And if he destroys a monster in battle, you can special summon up to 3 from your grave, and then add Buster Gundle to hand. Now his effect, he's like your second best monster in the deck. By tributing 3 Cubic cards, you can special summon him, and he gains 3000 attack and can attack 3 times. And when he's destroyed by an opponent's battle or card effect, you can special summon any 3 Cubic monsters in graveyard, and then add any Cubic card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So he searches your entire archetype by being destroyed and can win the duel for you in 1 turn. So he's really good too. The other engine we have is the Burn engine with, I'll start with Yugioh. On summon, you can special summon him the same way Dark Garnex by tributing 1 Cubic. You special summon him and your opponent gets burned for 800 damage and he gains 800 attack. And after the damage step, if he's in battle that turn, you can send him to the graveyard and special summon 2 Yugioh from your graveyard, and then add Vulcan Dragony, the Cubic King, to your hand. His effect lets you special summon him by tributing 2 Yugiohs, and then you get to get him on the field with 1600 attack, and your opponent gets burned for 800. Same effect as Yugioh. After he does battle, then you can add Indiora. Well, first you special summon 3 Yugioh from your grave, then add Indiora, and his effect is that by sending 3 Cubic monsters you control to the graveyard, you can special summon him. And if you do, he gains 2400 attack. When this card is special summoned, it inflicts 800 damage to your opponent, and if he's destroyed by an opponent's card, like battle or card effect, you can target 3 Cubic monsters in your graveyard, special summon them, and then add any Cubic card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So the same as Buster Gundle. But they're mostly, you can use them, but really they're mostly used for the names to get out Crimson Nova, the first card, for the OTK of the deck. Next we have Triple Summoner Monk. Pretty self-explanatory. You just want to get out Yugioh as fast as possible, and that's pretty much it. Alright, let's move on to the spell cards. First, we have Triple Cubic Karma. Now this card is the best spell card in the entire deck, arguably. Now, its effect is that when you activate it from your hand, you can target 1 Cubic monster you control, except Yugioh, and send any number of Yugioh Cubic Seeds from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and that monster gains 800 attack for each. So if this card is in your opening hand, you can just get any monster to plus 2,400 attack instantly. And if this card is on the field, because it's continuous, if you manage to special summon Vajam during your opponent's turn, you can send this card to the graveyard and half your opponent's life points, which is very good. But the main effect you'll use it for is its grave effect, where if it gets sent to the graveyard, you can banish it and add any cubic monster from deck to hand, which is insane. Alright, let's move on. Next you have Cubic Wave, which can make your monsters ridiculous. Its effect is that you target one cubic monster you control and one face-up monster your opponent controls. The attack of that monster you control becomes double its current attack, and if it does, the attack of that monster your opponent controls becomes halved. And it has a grave effect too, which is also very good. You can banish this card from and any number of cubic monsters from your graveyard, then target one face-up monsters your opponent controls equal to the number of those banished cubic monsters, and place one cubic counter on each of them. And monsters with cubic counters cannot attack, and their effects are negated, which is very good for stopping your opponent's plays. Alright, next up we have triple Foolish Burial Goods. Pretty self-explanatory, just to get any of the cubic spells and traps in grave, like Karma or Wave, and there's an extremely good trap card that we'll get to later. Alright, next we have the Destruction Engine, or the Board Wipe Engine. I like 2 Lightning Vortex and a Dark Hole. You can switch out one of the Lightning Vortexes for Raigeki, but I personally prefer Lightning Vortex because it lets you discard a card. So if you get Cubic Wave, Cubic Karma, or the trap card in your hand, then you can send it to the graveyard and get the graveyard effect, which is typically better. And Dark Hole just because that's really good for a board wipe. Next you have Forbidden Chalice. Just if you have to stop an opponent's card for using its effects, that's really helpful and easy to use. Next up is an extremely controversial card you can choose to use, you can choose not to use, Pot of Desires. So I personally prefer it because, yes, it will get rid of some of the cards in your deck, but if you're going for that speedy game that you need to finish in one turn, it can be extremely useful. Next up we have double MST. You can run Twin Twisters, you can run any spell and trap removal you want, like Hey Trunade, any of that stuff. I just don't have those available to me right now, so I'm using MST for the moment. Then finally, the main staple everyone needs after the ban list released this month, Monster Reborn. It's the best spell card in the game now, it's the go-to staple, you just need it. And finally, the last card in the main deck, the trap card, Unification of the Cubic Lords. Now, its effect lets you special summon the fusion monster for the deck, but it's really bad and you'll never summon it. But its graveyard effects, if a face-up cubic monster is destroyed by battle or even just leaves the field, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one level 4 or lower cubic monster from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, and if you do, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect this turn. So this card is extremely nice because it can be used to go into combos, it can be used to protect your monsters, and just go into an endless loop basically. This is an insanely good card. Alright, let's move on to the side deck. We'll start off with BLS. I just like it. I've used it in a couple of games. It is another monster you can summon to attack twice, and it's just nice to have, but it depends on the matchup. Then I like to run 2 Skullmeister, and just there's so many decks out there that rely on the graveyard, and you can just use this card to stop them, which is nice. Then I have 1 DD Crow. I wish I had 2. My friend is borrowing mine right now, but that's certainly an option for you to use. Then this card, Reasoning, it is certainly very good, but personally, I don't like to run it in the deck because it can win you games or lose you games, and if your opponent calls the right number, then it won't even matter. Which is why I think Pot of Desires is safer than Reasoning, because it's a +2, and then you can just make it easier to get cards rather than Reasoning, where it's a complete risk and your opponent can decide. Next we have one Forbidden Lance. I didn't really have much else. It's just easy to have if you want to target your big boss monster to protect him for a turn. You have double Fusion Conscription for the Fusion monster, this guy, which we'll go over later, but he just lets you search Crimson Nova. You have double Dark World Dealings, if you just want to be able to get draws and then have the opportunity to discard if you draw the traps or a spell. Then I like to run triple Royal Decree. Now this card can be super nice because battle traps devastate this deck. Fortunately, no one's really running battle traps right now, but with Solemn Judgment just brought back and and Torrential Tribute, there's so many things, so many other trap cards out there now that can be used, so I like to run Royal Decree to be able to stop those. And speaking of double Torrential Tribute, it's just nice to have if your opponent establishes a strong board and then they summon something else, you can just obliterate it. Alright, let's move on to the extra deck. We'll start off with the Fusion monster. It's really only used for Fusion Conscription if you choose to side that in, but if you can summon it, then go ahead, but its effect is very good. It cannot be targeted or destroyed by an opponent's card effects, and when this card declares an attack, half your opponent's life points. When this card destroys a monster by battle, you can activate this effect. This card can make a second attack during the battle phase. If you take effect damage, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. So if you can summon him, you're probably going to win the game, because they can't really do much to stop him. But he's really hard to summon, so I doubt that will happen. Then we have Decode Talker, double Proxy, just so you can go into them. Unfortunately, I am using a couple proxies in the deck, because I didn't have them available to me. But you also would run Firelode Dragon and Borreload Dragon. Then we'll move on to the Xyz monsters. I run one Skyplace Gangaridai. Just if you have two Nova on the field, you can make him. That's nice. Utopia Package, Baguska. He's really nice because his effect actually doesn't work on Crimson Nova because he has less than 3,000 attack, so he can stay in attack position while this card goes to defense. And it's very nice because it stops your opponent but not you. Then we have one Castel, one Honor Arc, one Dark Rebellion, and one Anti-Luminescent Knight. They're just nice to have. You don't really need them, but Castel in 101 can certainly help you in a tough situation. Alright guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile, and I hope it helps you. I'll come back to you soon with some dual replays later this week. Bye. Remember love.